Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating and frankly, totally life-saving piece of scientific research. You know, we trust our cars implicitly every single time we hit the road, right? We just press a pedal and this massive 2-ton machine comes to a complete halt. But what actually happens when the hidden chemistry inside that braking system begins to silently degrade? Well, we're going to dive right into the real-world, literal life-or-death consequences of hidden vehicle failures, specifically what's going on inside your brake lines. Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. Anatomy of brake failure. So to really wrap our heads around the science here, we kind of need to understand the stakes first. And they are high. 25,859. According to accident data from the Republic of Indonesia Police, throughout just the year 2017, traffic fatalities hit that staggering number. It's a deeply sobering statistic. Now, obviously, human error is a massive factor there, but the research points out that nearly 31% of these incidents actually involve vehicle quality issues. We're talking about absolutely critical functional failures here, like a failing brake system. And this isn't just an isolated finding either. A survey studying traffic accidents in the Kumasi metropolis in Ghana asked drivers directly about brake failure. The breakdown is super revealing. 40% of the respondents pointed to low brake fluid as the main culprit, and 33% pointed to excessive heat in the brake system. I want you to really hold on to those two concepts for a second, fluid and heat. Because as you'll see, when you combine them under the wrong circumstances, it creates a literally deadly mechanical cocktail. Which brings us to Section 2, the invisible enemy, water. To really get how everyday moisture causes those terrifying statistics we just talked about, let's start with the basics of what's actually pumping through your brake lines. Brake fluid is an organic liquid. It functions as a critical system lubricant and a hydraulic transfer medium. And by design, it is absolutely 100% not supposed to dissolve or mix with water. In a healthy vehicle, a standard DOT3 brake fluid is incredibly robust. I mean, it has a massive boiling point of around 205 degrees Celsius. It's built specifically to withstand the intense friction and extreme heat generated the second you slam on your brakes.
But what happens when water actually sneaks inside? That's the million-dollar question. Because over time, brake systems can naturally develop these tiny micro-leaks in the seals or the hoses, and everyday moisture from the air can just seep right in. And it doesn't take a lot. The researchers note that even a tiny, barely there 3% moisture level can drastically drop that robust 205-degree boiling point down to just 60% of its original capacity. If that happens, the fluid boils, the water turns into vapor, and suddenly you've got air bubbles in the line. And here is the truly terrifying part. You cannot compress a liquid. That's exactly why hydraulic brakes work in the first place. But you can absolutely compress vapor. So if you have vapor in your brake lines, your pedal goes straight to the floor and you just don't stop.
All right, moving on to Section 3, the brake fluid showdown. To put this invisible danger to the ultimate test, researchers set up a seriously rigorous competition. Let's meet our competitors in the ring, shall we? They selected 5 super popular brands of brake fluid to test out. We've got Jumbo, Fuso, Prestone, Tiga Berlian, and Toyota Motor Oil, which is commonly referred to as TMO. To ensure absolute scientific fairness across the board, the researchers designed a really meticulous experimental setup. They took exactly 60 milliliters of each brand's brake fluid. Then they intentionally contaminated them, varying the moisture levels from a baseline of 1% up to 2%, 3%, all the way up to a highly compromised 4%. They placed these samples on an electric stove, tracked the ambient temperature with an infrared thermometer, and meticulously timed exactly how long it took for the fluids to heat up to various thresholds, starting from 80 degrees all the way up to a scorching 120 degrees Celsius. Let's get into the heavy data. Section 4, heat and boiling results. Now, what's really interesting about this first batch of data, and remember you want your fluid to heat up as slowly as possible, is how the brands differentiate themselves right out of the gate at just a 1% moisture level. Preston takes the longest time to heat up. It took 4 minutes and 10 seconds to reach 120 degrees Celsius. That is exactly what you want for safety. It's resisting the heat. But on the totally opposite end of the spectrum, Toyota Motor Oil heated up way faster, reaching that same 120 degrees in just 2 minutes and 56 seconds. But watch what happens when that invisible enemy, the water, reaches a 4% moisture level. The dynamics shift drastically, and the danger really accelerates. The heating times just absolutely plummet. Prestone still performed the best of the bunch, taking 3 minutes and 17 seconds to reach 120 degrees. But Toyota Motor Oil? Wow! At 4% moisture, it heated up dangerously fast.
It shot all the way up to 80 degrees Celsius in an alarming 1 minute and 27 seconds. I mean, if you're riding your brakes down a steep mountain road, a fluid that heats up that fast is a massive, life-threatening red flag.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate climax of the data, the actual boiling points at 2, 3, and 4% moisture. Because remember, boiling point is the ultimate safety metric here. Boiling fluid means vapor, and vapor means you can't stop the car. When we look at the boiling points across the board, especially at that 4% moisture level, it is staggering just how severely compromised these fluids become.
So, what does this all mean for us? Section 5. The ultimate safety takeaway.
How do we actually synthesize these extreme data points into something practical for everyday driving? Well, when we explicitly contrast the best and the worst performers in this specific study, the difference is honestly kind of shocking. Preston emerged as the safest performer by far. Even at that highly compromised 4% water level, it held on to a boiling point of 111.3 degrees Celsius. But on the flip side, Toyota Motor Oil was the fastest to heat up across the board, and at that exact same 4% moisture level, its boiling point plummeted to a terrifying 78 degrees Celsius. Guys, 78 degrees is barely hotter than a fresh cup of coffee, and that is happening right inside the single most critical safety system of your vehicle.
So, the crucial point here, the golden rule established by all this data, is pretty simple. The higher the water level in your brake fluid, the faster your brakes are going to heat up, and the lower their boiling point will drop. Different brands obviously handle this degradation differently, as we just saw, but the mechanical reality remains exactly the same across the board. Water is, without a doubt, the ultimate enemy of hydraulic braking.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply personal question to consider today. You've heard the data, you understand the chemistry of vapor lock, you've seen those shocking drops in boiling points, and we know the real-world accident statistics. So I really have to ask, when was the last time you checked your own brake fluid's moisture level? Because as this research proves, an invisible, deadly danger might literally be lurking in your driveway right now. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay safe out there.